Dear Pool Guy, wanted to reach out and get your advice on a few things. I've seen you in pool forums and you seem awesome. My vinyl liner pool has come to its age for need of replacement. The pool is in ground 1836,
Atlas,
36,000 gallons.
stop.
I have a quote for a GLI brand liner, 27 mil, for 4,700 installed, and another quote for a Merlin 20 mil for 6,700 installed. Is there really any quality difference between the two?
I would say on the outset that there's not a significant difference. I think the materials have some discrepancies, but in general, fairly close to the same. What I would do if I were you, $2,000 in one being a 20 mil versus 27 mil is a significant difference. But what I would do if I were you is research the company and find the one that you're most comfortable with. Cheapest is not always best. It can be, but it isn't necessarily. So while one is $2,000 less than another, the value in the service and the service after the sale might be worth it. I don't know the companies, but I would say the difference between any one liner to another, GLI versus Merlin, I'm not going to pick one over the other. I do like some companies better than others, but I would say that dollars difference, you might say one is worth a few hundred more in value than another, but I wouldn't say 2,000. What I would look at instead is the company providing the service and can they back up their service after the sale.
Question 2, I also have polymer paneled walls. I'm thinking of going with a salt system. I know the cells go bad after 3 to 5 years. I'm thinking of installing an IntelliChlor IC60 in the 36,000 gallon pool. I know adding salt from time to time and muriatic acid to lower the pH, but other than that, do salt pools have a higher need for clarifier and baking soda for alkalinity like my current puck system?
So I would say that as long as you're running your salt system long enough, so understand that an IC60, what that means is that if you run it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it produces enough chlorine to keep a 60,000 gallon pool clean. You're saying that your pool is 36,000, which would tell me that if you run an IC60 at 100% for 13 to 14 hours a day, your pool will stay clean. While you may need some clarifiers, you certainly, as long as you're running your system long enough, you're not going to have a problem. If you're running your system any less at 100%, if you start the system and you have chlorine production at 100%, you would have to run that 13 to 14 hours a day to ensure that your water stays clear. If you run it any less than that, you're going to get an algae bloom, which means then you're going to have dead algae in the water, which means you're going to need a water clarifier. So whether you need a clarifier or not is really going to be based on if you run your system long enough. And I would say 13 to 14 hours is a bare minimum if it were up to me.
So that led into question number 3. I don't like running my pool too long when I'm not using it. You addressed the salt situation, but can you turn over a 36,000 gallon pool in 6 hours?
While you can, so let's go 6 hours. 36,000 gallon pool, we're talking 6,000 gallons an hour, which means we're talking 100 gallons a minute. It can be turned over in 6 hours. However, that's asking a lot. Your average 1 horsepower pump of any kind is, and size of the plumbing is going to matter, but you're looking at 60 gallons a minute with your average pool pump. So you're going to either need to have really large plumbing and a variable speed pump that runs up to 3 horsepower. If you could run a 3 horsepower pump at full blast and get your 100 gallons per minute, you'll be able to turn it over in 6 hours. The downside to that is, even if you turn the water over in 6 hours, that system is not, the IC60 is not designed to produce that much chlorine that quickly. So the only way this scenario works is to run the system 13 to 14 hours a day, optimally at 50, 60, 65 gallons a minute, and running longer, because just turning it over once a day, while that was the optimal when you're using a normal chlorinated pool, you can no longer go by that anymore. Now you have to go by the size of the system that creates the chlorine. And no matter how much water you push through that, you're going to need 13 to 14 hours a day just to keep that water clear.